The one thing that I wish I did, but I believe is true, is every athlete should be so driven at two sports.
Two sports.
So what we're building is a way for construction workers to communicate and share updates on the field with their office teams without manually inputting data. I came up with this idea with my co-founder, Elena. She came from a background of working at JP Morgan, where everything is so much more rigid.
Welcome back to another episode of Live with Ty, guys. Today, coming on the show is Karly Hoffman. She's the founder of a company that is soon to be released. Right now, they're in stealth mode. But she's going to walk us through her experiences as an athlete and how that directly correlated with her building her own construction AI company. Super hyped for this episode, and also super hyped for you guys to be a part of it. What we're trying to do here with Live with Ty Productions is build a community that bridges the gap from A to C. And Live with Ty is to be that B component. We know that student athletes go on to be the leaders of industry and titans of industry. But how do they get there? That's exactly what we're committed to building here. So stay tuned for that episode, which is actually going to happen right now once Karly hops in. Super hyped. Another thing that is really surprising. The majority of you that are listening to this episode aren't subscribed to the channel. The reason we grow as a following and the amount of impact that we can have in people's lives is when you guys subscribe to our channel. That's on Spotify, that's on LinkedIn, that's on YouTube, that's on Instagram. But right now we're making a real push for YouTube and Spotify because that's where you find the real value in the full length episodes that we produce here. We're trying to build a community here, guys, and it takes every single one of you. For those of you guys who are already subscribed and have been subscribed, I love you. I can't thank you I literally cannot thank you guys enough. It means the world that you're supporting this journey. But I ask that you guys tell your friends, tell people that want to be inspired. Hear the next founders, the next CEOs, and the current CEOs that are happening right now on this platform. We've been able to have some crazy connections with this show, and we're all built around inspiring people. That's exactly what we're going to do once Karly hops in. Stay tuned.
Live with Ty starts now.
She's here. We're going to get it rolling.
Hey, how's it going?
Hey, Karly, how are you?
Good, how are you?
Dude, I'm doing amazing. I mean, I'm a lot better now that you're here. I was just doing my spiel. Did you hear any of that? I hope you didn't.
I didn't. My
Okay.
computer might be a little lagged or something.
Okay,
Sorry
yeah,
about
no
that.
worries. Well, thanks for coming on the show. I'm super
Sure.
excited, you know. I've been trying to work on my Canadian accent, but
Oh my
sometimes
gosh.
it works, sometimes
That's-
it doesn't. How was that? How was that? My mom's from Canada, but I didn't get any of her Canadianness.
No
That's
way.
not even a word, but
Whereabouts is your mom from? What part?
She's from. I can hear it even now as you're talking.
Okay.
She's from. Where is she from again? Oh my gosh. Yeah, Toronto.
Toronto? Okay, cool.
Yeah, Toronto.
Um, Yeah, I'm from the West Coast, so it's funny. I've been in the States for probably 10 years now almost.
Okay.
And I will go home for a summer and come back with a bit of the accent, but I can hear it so much more when with my friends on FaceTime.
Really?
Yeah, it's funny because before I was like, there's no such thing as a Canadian accent, but now I get it.
What's let's say if there's some of the most common Canadian stereotypes that you had to suffer and endure growing
Uh,
up. Tell
that
me, hit me with some, yeah.
Oh, the biggest one since being in LA is that I should never be cold, which is just crazy. I'm like, because
Okay.
I'm used to it. I'm like, oh,
Ah,
I'm so cold. Yeah, I don't know of any others. I think the stereotype of people being nice from Canada is kind of true, in my opinion, but um,
I feel like that would go seamlessly in you being from Los Angeles, because you know what I mean, the stereotype about California people is you're fake nice. You know what I mean? Almost too nice. So you have a Canadian, and then you also have somebody who's from Los Angeles. Then am I
yeah.
with the nicest person on earth or what?
Yeah, I get that. You make your friends with the energy you put out there. So I feel
Okay.
like that's how I've kind of made some good people out here, be in my circle. But yeah,
But
I think that's yeah, it is an interesting dynamic out here for sure.
how does that transition into the construction space? Because that's something that you're heavily involved in. That's
hmm
not necessarily the friendliest, type of vibe at all. But here you are, Canadian and Los Angeles. So how do you how does that intersection happen?
I find it so interesting because the people in the industry are all so down to earth and so
Okay.
hardworking.
Yeah.
Um, So I feel like they're really easy to just okay, let's just like drop the persona of like sometimes I feel like even New York might have that like persona of like every job is so important that you literally are
Yes,
solving the world's problems.
yes, that's
But
so New
people,
York.
yeah, and some of them are pretty important jobs for sure, but like if you strip it down, it's like it's not nothing's that deep. So I feel like connecting with people in the blue collar industries is easier, but it is like a kind of a gritty like yeah, there's definitely like I guess the way people put you in a box of being a girl in construction is a little bit more of a challenging thing for me.
Hmm.
But that's just like in any industry. I don't like the whole being a female is so much harder.
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah, I don't think,
Embrace it.
yeah, I just am like, okay, I'm raising money as a founder. I'm not raising money as a female founder type of thing.
Mm.
Um, so I think that's been important. And then that's the same thing for construction. Like,
When
I'm not.
you, how did, let's say, so you're at a startup, right? Or you're building your own startup.
Mhm.
And when I was researching, you actually threw me for a loop a little bit because I was doing my research. So I thought your startup was the stealth thing, but the stealth thing is actually a cover for the startup that you're actually building. And
Mhm.
that I was like, oh my goodness, this girl lied to me. How could she? But I
Oh,
did my research, I think what you're building is super, super cool, and we're gonna talk about it today.
yeah.
How did one thing I do think that is very controversial given that your student athlete perspective or your background is that it's a super structured environment, right? You have practices, you have games, you know your schedule for months and months out.
Mm-hmm.
But when you're doing a startup, it is everything but. So how do
Yeah.
you take certain skills that you developed inside the locker room during your time at Harvard and playing on the hockey team, and how does that apply to you creating this venture? And tell us
Yeah.
a little bit more about what that venture is and how it came to be.
Yeah. I think it's funny when I was thinking about how being in sports has translated. Like when you have sports, you kind of have everything laid out for your life. Like
Yeah.
you think you're gonna be you know where you're gonna be next summer for camps, you know the next stepping stone in your career. And with startups, I feel like I haven't had that almost like North Star since like hockey,
Okay.
like I do now. Like I know what I'm building towards, and I kind of have mini milestones to get to that point. Before you're kind of like in in other companies working, and your stepping stones are kind of for someone else, and they're
Mm.
not like for a goal that you've like had that could be, life changing for you and your family. Um, so I think of it as like I haven't had that drive or that grit for other jobs like I do for a startup. So in a way, it's forced me to be disciplined again.
Okay. I feel
Hmm.
like again, like you've definitely always been disciplined. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
you don't like well I did research and like your time at Canada and all this stuff. Like
Hmm.
you've been on the mark, success after success. But as much as you can share, because I know you might be guys still be in stealth mode.
Hmm.
I know
Hmm.
you guys are at the intersection of AI and construction. But tell me
Yeah.
more.
Yeah. So what we're building is a way for construction workers to communicate and share updates on the field with their office teams without manually inputting data. The construction world works on verbal updates. They talk to each other on sites. They have 100 phone calls a week. They're
Yeah.
constantly updating on the phone, and we're trying to make it so that these construction workers don't need to be allergic to technology anymore because they can just adopt this without really knowing. The, there's more I can get into, but essentially you're taking away the manual input of updates, notes, and all that, and creating tasks based on your verbal conversations. Um, we're in stealth mode for about another month, but
Exciting.
yeah, exciting. We're piloting right now, and so it's crazy. It moves so fast now with AI, but it's also like a race.
Yeah, it definitely is. Like something in working in startups, always a competition.
Yeah.
Stuff always goes wrong, so you're always having to pivot. But I
Hmm.
do think from that student athlete perspective, how does that give you the edge? That's what I'm wondering.
Yeah. Yeah, like you you kind of I mean, in a lot of sports, there's so many things that happen in the game or even in your year or career that you have to pivot. Sometimes you're, I don't know, put on a different position, or your coach needs you to start being this type of player, maybe a little bit more of a defensive player, which I wasn't necessarily great at.
Is that what happened to you?
I mean I was definitely more of an offensive offense, but
Okay.
I had to like reel it in a bit. And so you have to pivot and mold to what the company needs or the team. So I think that helped. And just being open to pivoting, just kind of like your sport and just yeah, being adaptable. Um, I would say those are like the big things is not kind of being giving only child or only like single sport.
Mm. So
Yeah.
this idea that you had, where did it stem from? Where did you say like, okay, there's a massive problem here, and let's give it a crack.
I worked in construction, like traditional construction.
Like hard hat or no?
Well, like I would have to wear hard hats sometimes.
Okay, you gotta send me a couple pictures of those. I'll put in the
Yeah,
episode.
yeah,
It'll be
yeah, yeah,
funny.
yeah. I'll throw them in your email. But I basically like was on the sites and just trying to understand the pain points and why there was so many required rework. And there was a lot of it because of updates not being synced with somebody who they gave the update to. And so I came up with this idea with my co-founder Elena, and she came from a background of working at JP Morgan, where
Yeah.
everything is so much more like rigid. All updates, if your financial advisor wants to has to do something, they have to sync with their client. Like everything
Mhm.
is so much more red taped, and so it was kind of birthed from that perspective of okay, let's create more like compliance and the ability to be risk averse instead of just letting things continue.
When was the moment? Because I feel like most in the conversation I've had with people on this platform, there's always a moment where it's almost like, okay, I have to do something. I can't
Yeah.
let this keep happening. So tell me about that story and that moment for you.
That moment, I know so clearly. I was sitting at a coffee shop one morning with Elena, and we would co-work at coffee shops because we both were remote. And I was getting four phone calls back and forth from like two different people asking me similar things. And then they would call me back and ask again. And I was repeating myself. And Elena was like, there's got to be some kind of solution to documenting these conversations, or at least giving a hard sync to the people after you have those conversations. And so she kind of was the brain behind the idea of the actual technology, which is it's essentially helping summarize your calls and summarize your interactions to create takeaways. So yeah, it was a coffee shop, and it was like me getting slammed with all these like subcontractors calling me, and I'm like, I can't do this. Yeah.
Well, I'm glad it's leading to it's leading to something so successful. When it comes to finding a teamwork, something that student athletes again amazing at, very good teammates, right?
Yeah.
But the transition into the professional role post graduation, teammates get scattered, people go different directions. Since you also said that you guys are both non-technical, right?
Yeah.
But the problem that you guys are trying to solve is technical. How did you come about in finding your partner that's going to be your right-hand man throughout this whole startup venture?
Yeah, we have been so lucky with two incredible engineers who work super closely together on projects. And so Elena had worked with Lauren, one of our founding engineers, for 5 years. And we all had hung out prior to even like having them on board and like just as friends. And we just knew that they passed the airport test. I don't know if you've heard of that one where
No, you're going to have to explain it to me. Tell me, what's the airport
yeah,
test?
the airport test is would you want to spend like 10 hours if you were stuck in an airport or on an airplane with somebody? Um, and yeah, it was just like they were friends first, and you don't you don't want to like treat every coworker as a friend necessarily. I don't think that's like sustainable across the country, but or across the company. But with them, they're just like they're people we care about so much, and we all care about it together. So
When it comes to something, and again, by the time you graduated, you ChatGPT wasn't, let's say, like a thing, right? So I'm sorry for you for that. Saves a lot of time, right?
oh,
Don't be too salty
uh,
because your whole company's going to be based on that. But one misconception for a lot of people, and I fall into this, is that there's so many different AI models, right? And
yeah.
I think AI is at the scope where if you want to scale a business, you need to be integrating to it,
hmm
right? What are some of the best practices? Let's say I wanted to found something right now. I know I have to integrate AI into it.
Yeah.
But all I know is, let's say, about ChatGPT. There's got to be more out there, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I think if you're be a founder of any company that's even been around for a long time, I think you need to just look at the things that you don't want to do day to day. Like what is the things that you or your coworkers just can't stand doing, make them unhappy. And there's probably a solution for it, like drafting emails as simple as it is, like Superhuman has like saved probably hours in the last 3 months of my life.
It's
So
superhuman a type of AI.
yeah, it's basically this app who actually just got acquired by Grammarly today.
Oh wow! Congrats to them.
Yeah, I was like, good for Grammarly, good for Superhuman. I don't even know how long they've been around for, but couldn't be long.
Hmm.
Um, but but they essentially help clean up your inbox and take over your inbox for you, which 2 years
Wow.
ago would have been so scary. But now I'm like,
Yeah.
I don't care. So yeah, I think it's just starting with the core pains in your day-to-day life.
And then where do you? So, a lot of people, let's say, have a bunch of different core pains, right?
Hmm.
What is that next step in, like, okay, how do I vet what AI service or platform is going to help solve that? Because again, like you said, the superhuman thing, right? You put those same pain points into, let's say, a Perplexity or a ChatGPT. It's not going to give you the same output. So how would you even go about finding a platform like Superhuman?
Yeah, I think I have found all my AI tools on LinkedIn,
Okay.
and following some like founder influencers almost. Um, because with AI tools, you want to use what your competitors or what people have talked about. It's all based on, well, from my experience, it's based on, okay, what's people using that they rely on and they trust. Because I'm the type of person, and I don't know if you are, but if I open up an app and I can't figure it out in the first like 3 minutes, I'm like, nah,
Yeah,
delete,
we're twins. We are exactly the same
cancel
person in that
trial.
perspective. Yeah.
Like, yeah,
Get
I
me out
like
of there.
put, yeah, exactly. I have like dates on my calendar of when trials end to make sure I like, cancel in time.
Yeah. Smart. That's
So
smart.
yeah, so I think it's really word of mouth and what your people you would would look up to or your peers.
Did you ever see yourself in this starter space? Not at all.
I didn't like I think it's one of those things where I always dreamt about being a tech founder, but like it took until I found the right co-founder and the the mutual drive day in and day out, and then you blink and it's a month in and you're just like you're starting to get money, you're deploying beta products, but at the core I would say no. I would probably not have thought of myself as a tech founder. Yeah, I think it kind of just like happens naturally.
Just happens naturally. What is it about, let's say, your athletic background and you being a Division One athlete for 4 years? And again,
Mhm.
congrats to all the success that you've
Thank
had. You
you. Thank
were a
you.
baller, so congrats on that. What are from the athletic background? What are some of the things that you learned from that working at a startup never could?
Yeah, I think something that was so appealing to me as an athlete was the idea of almost like freedom. I don't, I,
That sounds a little contradictory though,
I was
because
gonna
like,
say, yeah.
yeah, it's like, because that's the thing that's always perplexed me about it, and why I started this whole series is that
Yeah.
athletes love structure, but they also go on to be a bunch of CEOs and founders, which
Yeah.
is extremely unstructured.
Yeah.
So how does that come to be? And you're doing it yourself, so you gotta hit me with some knowledge.
I think it's because when you're like you're structured, but it's all for an end goal in 10 years from now. Like when I was in high school or middle school, I was I was doing the structured workouts, or like my summers were kind of taken to hockey because I knew in 10 years I wanted to be in this place. So it's kind of like weirdly an individual sport within a team sport. I don't know how to really like put that in a way that isn't like kind of
No, I think the people
yeah,
watching will get it. It's mostly
yeah,
athletes,
yeah. It's
like
like you're
you're part of
only
a team, but you gotta make sure you're stepping up to the plate all the time.
exactly, and then next year you're not going to be on that same team. Like it's going to be a different team, even if it's the same organization. So, I think with that, it's almost like you are your own CEO when you're training, and you're in control of your next year when you're like an athlete. And so that's how I feel like I am right now. It's like I'm almost like an athlete right now, just constantly training for like next year or next month.
Where does that pressure component come in then? Because a big thing with athletes is that, so you are right. When you're waking up early, you're doing sessions on your own so that you want to start that match. You want to play extra minutes this season. That's putting pressure on yourself, but also you do have the pressure coming from your coach. But
Yeah.
now you're your own boss. So where is that pressure coming from? It's like
Uh,
I can hear it in your voice, but tell me,
yeah,
where does that come from?
the pressure is coming from investors. Like you get your family and friend round closed, and for some reason, that should be the like lowest feeling. Like right now we're pre-launch, so we shouldn't feel this pressure to perform. But really, right now I feel more pressure than ever because it's my family and friends' money.
Mm.
And like I think the pressure comes from investor calls that may go really well, and then that's kind of scary. But really, when you get a no, being an athlete, you're used to being told no, or you're used to sometimes getting cut or whatever.
Yeah.
And it's almost like numbing in a way now. I don't really take it as hard. And my co-founder is such a like she can be could put on like a pretty cold face and not be phased. But I'm I think that's like unique outside of sport, people who played sports, because you didn't really have the ability to cry over things or anything. So,
No, definitely, and
oh
it
my gosh.
definitely not in front of your coach. You
No,
know,
oh my gosh. Yeah, yeah, that was always such a crazy thing when I would see people crying on the bench or something. I'm like, aren't
what are you
you like,
doing?
yeah, I'm like, what is happening? It's not the end of the world. So,
No, that's good, and I'm glad you say that. The theme that I'm
yeah,
getting from what you're saying is that constant theme of resilience, right?
yeah,
So you have an idea, you are reaching out to people, and you're constantly getting rejected and rejected and
yeah.
rejected.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of people who'd call it quits.
Mm-hmm.
What is it about being a student athlete in that background that's led you to, you know, you're about to launch. You didn't get that. You didn't start that way, right? But
Yeah.
now you're there. What was that process, and how does that tie back into your athletic background?
Yeah, I really think it has to do with your team though. Like at the core, going through days or maybe a week that's tougher in a company would be a very lonely thing if you were a single founder.
Solo founder.
And being like used to the team and leaning on your teammates in hockey, it's kind of like the balance of who's stepping up that day or that week to perform. And sometimes it's Elena, sometimes it's me, sometimes it's our engineers that are like coming to us with crazy go to market ideas. And it's a whole collaboration, kind of like hockey. But there's times where you're like, oh my gosh, this is so scary. Like I half the time you're questioning what you're even doing, and then you just on autopilot a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah, the kind of like you're going so fast that you don't really know what's going on sometimes, and you're just like, oh my gosh.
How do you keep yourself sane then? Because it sounds like you're in a constant pressure cooker. There's things going wrong left and right all the time. But yet, here you are with a smile on your face. How did that come to be?
I think like because I'm doing exactly I'm like the happiest in my career because I'm doing something that I'm wanting to do. And I don't know. Of course it's like deep, but it's actually not that deep. Like at the big
Okay, yeah, you're gonna have to elaborate on that
yeah,
one a
like I'm
little
like
bit.
there is I'm like I'm so obviously like this better work out, but there is also that level of like every day I get to wake up doing exactly what I want to do and building something that will make other people's lives better. And I keep myself sane by making sure I shut off for a day a week at least. Like I really try to go off the grid on Sundays.
Okay. Like no phone, no like you're
Yeah, I like don't check my Instagram. I don't check like LinkedIn is a tough one for me lately though. Like
tough.
it's
Yeah.
so
I
it's
trust me, I know it's tough.
yeah. Um, but I think it's so easy to lose your hobbies throughout this, and I've made sure that I stay, you know, working out, and doing things that make me happy outside just to clear my mind.
So a lot of the people that are going to be watching, let's say this episode, right? They're recently graduated who just took, let's say, a job, right? A lot of student athletes that go on to be founders, CEOs, just like yourself, they start off in that very, very structured environment. One of the conversations that I had with one of the previous guests is that that's actually can be very, very good for them because you have that structure. But deep down, you're innovators. You got to the Division 1 level because you were innovative and you stood out among the rest in a structured environment, right? So, how would they best go about breaking out of that structured environment if they want to and taking that leap of faith in starting a venture like they know many, many have before, but it's the uncommon thing to do?
I I think the first thing is putting your thoughts in a deck. If you're like if we're thinking about like actual tactical things that they can do is
Yeah, yes.
yeah, like
Hit us
put
with knowledge.
yeah, put your thoughts in a deck. That's I remember that night after we were at the coffee shop and we had that like we need to solve this problem moment. We stayed up till 2 a.m. making a deck and doing research. And then the next morning woke up at 6 and I came and did another 12-hour day working with her. And we built this company around that deck, and I think it just allows you to be organized. And I think finding somebody that you're okay with spending like 12 hours a day with to do
Yeah,
this, and like it's not
grinding
gonna
it
be
out.
yeah, not gonna be easy, but it's also like, oh, this like is somebody who is like my best friend or somebody who I really respect. And that will make it a lot easier. So I think the breaking out of the structured environment, Elena's a perfect example. She left the most stable career any, and I'm like, oh my
Yeah,
gosh.
JP Morgan.
Yeah, she was at like, you know, a fintech company that was acquired by JP Morgan and has been there for 3 years. Like, just completely took the leap. And she said, I had no other option. Like, I know this is what I needed to do. And in the end, it's going to be okay if you're an athlete, I genuinely think you're a very like appealing employee if you want to go back to that.
Got you. So you're saying pretty much they have nothing to be worried about.
Yeah,
Take the
you got
risk.
nothing to be worried about. You're young, you'll bounce back.
Yeah, no, definitely. I feel like again, and I love that we're able to be here and having this conversation because it's something that happens, right?
Mm-hmm.
Where student athletes go on to be titans of industry.
Yeah.
But it's such a scary thing. And again, like we were talking about, it's a constant contradiction of it where you need like you need that structure,
Yeah.
and then you also need that pressure. So I guess it would make sense that a lot of them become founders or CEOs, but
Mm-hmm.
I want to know like what's your take on it, because there's a high percentage of student athletes that do go on to be these titans of industry. Why do you think it's so common within us?
To become leaders or to be.
Yeah, like to become CEOs,
Mm-hmm.
owners,
Mm-hmm.
building your own things
I
or
think,
taking something over.
yeah, I think it really comes down to a lot of these athletes that are at Div 1 or they're getting recruited are all type A, and they kind of have that like no lose mentality. And when you're working for someone else, and I don't know if this was just me, you're constantly like, I can't wait to do something for my family and build something for my family, because you're used to leading your life as an athlete. Nobody else kind of led your life, and I think that it really comes down to that, um, the like grit of it all, and being
Yeah.
the need to be the best. Like it's a craving. You like get mad if you're not the best as an athlete. And yeah, it's almost that competitiveness.
That competitive nature that just stays with it.
Yeah.
Another thing that you've done is that you're also part of a lot of these different groups, right?
Hmm.
So
Hmm.
you were at the Live AI group, you were part of the C100 group.
Yeah.
So you're always surrounding yourself by a multitude of support, right?
Hmm.
How important was that in your journey?
Yeah, I think being a part of these groups is almost, in a way, being a part of the hockey world. It's a tight group of people who understand what you're going through. You can meet, I met some Team USA girls when I was in Finland and at a camp, and just because we're, rivalries or whatever, we still bonded, and we were like, oh my gosh, like summer camp is so tough for both of our associations. Like we can bond over things that are we're not directly experiencing together, but I think that's the same thing with these groups, is just having the resources to ask, like, and feel like even if you don't have the answer, I know you're like, it's normal to feel like you're going through something that everyone else is going through.
How do you go about finding these groups?
Um, I I genuinely I really like Google.
Okay. Google, LinkedIn.
Google, LinkedIn, and I think going to some events like around LA, Startup Cafe. There's like little groups that meet up, and then they kind of you have conversations with people who are like, oh, you should join this group, or you should check this out, and it kind of like becomes a spider web of like a network. So yeah, I think like just not being afraid to go to a live event. I think that's like very important.
Okay, so I'm gonna hit you with a little bit of a contradiction, and again, you could prove me you could prove me wrong. So, in my experience, sometimes something that athletes do is, especially in college, they're very kept to their own, right?
Hmm. Hmm.
Where there's like a little bubble. But from just hearing what you said, that may not be the best practice,
Yeah, I
right?
think I think it's I had an interesting experience in college because
Tell me.
I had 2 years where I was just heads down, hockey school. I had probably, I don't know, two friends outside of athletics. Um, and then I got hit with this like foot injury where I had to get two surgeries.
Oh my gosh.
And so I then spent the next 2 years as a non-athlete. Um,
Okay.
and
What
so
was that transition like?
it was it was
It's
like a
gotta be tough.
slow transition because I had a gap year where I kind of did a redshirt year. So I kind of dealt with it during that year. So I kind of dealt with it through that year, and then I really just was like, okay, I want to immerse myself in people and groups that are outside of athletics because that's all I've known my life, and my whole identity was around ice hockey. And in a way, it was easier after college to just make that complete drastic jump to come to LA and not go to New York. Like,
Mm.
I was okay with like going kind of in a different direction. Um, so I think that like in college, if I could have done over the first 2 years, I would have been a part of, I wouldn't say a sorority.
Or
I
for
would
you,
say
a finals club.
finals club. Yes, I know. I was like, what are they called again? I would have been a part of a final club because there's so many different personalities and not just athletes. So yeah, I think that not just like just try to have a group outside of hockey or your sport was is my advice.
Why do you think that's so hard for student athletes to do? Because it's something that it seems like. So growing up for me, like even like can I have this show? I love talking to people. I've always been a chatterbox. When I
Yeah.
first came into my team, I felt like I was a unicorn in the sense that I had so many friends outside the team,
Yeah.
and it was me leveraging my athletic prowess to feel like, okay, people want to be around athletes. They want to talk to them, right?
Yeah.
But that idea, that concept, was like foreign to my teammates, and still to some degree is that where if they don't know you, it's going to be hard for them to make like that connection, and that's something I see across the board at a bunch of different schools, right?
Mhm. Mhm.
Why do you think that's so pervasive within our athlete community to be so
Bubble.
kept to themselves?
I think it has to do with the schedules. Like I remember when I got off playing hockey or was not playing hockey anymore, I was studying at 11 p.m. And I wouldn't say that's like healthy, but like I wasn't doing that as an athlete. I was going to bed at 9 because I had to practice in the morning. And so you you're kind of like on different schedules than the non-athletes. But I also think it's that kind of you're leaving the rink or you're leaving the court with your teammates, so you're going to get dinner with them and then you're going to go study with them. Like you kind of just like are in like a tunnel with your whole career. So I think those are some like that's my take on it, like why it was happening.
So I'll do a hypothetical with you here. So if you were to go back in time, you just said that you would make more friends outside of hockey, right? But
Mhm.
you're still committed to that very, very tight schedule. So how would you go about doing that?
I think oh, that's a good question. Like talking to people in class and not being
Okay.
shy. I think talking to people and like not just saying, "Oh, we should grab lunch," because that is like the classic like let's grab lunch to catch up or let's grab lunch. I live in the same building as you. Everyone says those things, but it was like a commonality to not follow through. And then once you start following through, which I did in my second and third year, I made friends that were just completely different backgrounds like and then I became roommates with them in my third and fourth year. So, yeah, I think it's like being intentional with making connections. It's because the last thing I'll say about this is you're when you come to campus, you're given 20 friends on your team
Yeah.
just
Offer it.
handed to you. And these people are not given sometimes any if they're from a different country or whatever. And so they're in a harder situation than you where it's more intimidating to go make friends or like talk to people if you're not a part of a group already. So early on in my freshman like even freshman week where you get to campus before anyone else, um, I wish I would have like been more intentional with making connections in those settings.
If there's one, so let's say I'm a freshman. I'm about to walk into college in August, right? August or September, whenever they start. What's one actionable, and I'm also an athlete, right? So I'm going to have that group of friends. But I've been listening to this series called Live with Ty, and I know how important it is to make friends outside the team, right?
Yeah, yeah.
What's one actionable item that I could immediately implement right now before I step foot on campus or while I'm right on campus to put myself in the best position to just start increasing my network from the jump?
I think majority of campuses or universities have groups before you even get to campus on Facebook. Ours was Facebook. I don't know how it works now. How
I
they're
think I think Instagram.
okay. Yeah, we
Yeah.
moved up. That's
No, not Snap. No, I think there was one Snapchat group, but that was like a little sus. Like a
oh
little
yeah,
weird.
yeah, yeah. That might have been a subgroup or something.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think in those groups you are given like access to everyone that's in your freshman class sometimes, at least at my school. And having starting like to be engaging. So I would say the first action item you could do is saying hi to like two or three people and being like, let's meet up and grab a coffee or grab lunch, um, and not chickening out or being like, oh, whatever, I'll do it next week. Like going for it, even if it's the most awkward thing. Like it's not going to be, you're not going to probably hit it off with everyone you meet right off the bat. But it's
Mm-mm.
kind of like in a way dating. Like
Okay.
yeah,
Tell me more.
yeah, you're not gonna like you're these people are okay with going and meeting up with a random person on an app, but you want to date like you kind of have no other choice but to date people in college for friends, like friendship dating.
Mm.
And then yeah, I don't really know if that's a good analogy, but it's like you're gonna meet people that are so different from where you grew up, especially if you grew up in a bubble of a suburb like myself, that it's almost like gonna take a while to get used to the quirks of people, or how people grew up is different than you, but that's actually like really cool. And so you gravitate to those towards those people the more you like are interested.
How have some of the cool people that you've met along, your years of life helped shape your business mindset?
I think it's I think it comes down to being curious about everything about business and not just being excited about the cool things like the branding or like the the what people see on the outside. Um, I I think the way I like met so many different people, they were computer science majors or undergrad for going to or their pre-med, whatever it was. Um, I think it's almost being interested in all those types of people. So being interested in like engineers, like some of my best friends are now engineers, which is like so random. Because I probably
Yeah.
was like probably wouldn't have connected with those in my mind. Like, but now I'm so
Yeah.
interested in coding, but and AI, which is so funny to me, but so cool.
Yeah, I like your story about like how you found yourself at this intersection of AI
Mhm.
as well. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
One of
Mhm.
the other people I interviewed, and her episode's coming out this Sunday.
Wow.
She was a ballerina before, or no, she was a professional ballet dancer, and now she runs her own tech company. So I'm seeing a lot of the parallels.
That's
How would, and I really like what you said about curiosity. I think
mhm.
curiosity is key, but
Yeah.
not everybody's naturally curious like that. I think with social media, other things, people's attention spans are very limited. And they could be
Yeah.
missing out on somebody that might make them, let's say, the next $1 million business, right?
Yeah.
What are some of the best ways that people listening to this can actively stay curious?
I think the curiosity thing is something that has come from being exposed to like or not being exposed to like a lot of diversity growing up. I'm from
Hmm.
Edmonton, but a suburb of it. So like I kind of could predict what every single person, or not every single, but a lot of the people are doing today.
Gotcha.
Like they kind of follow their parents and that's like as long as they're happy, but um I think just realizing that everyone has something that they can, give you perspective on or vice versa. Um, and just finding that thing about somebody. I remember when I was a part of teams that sometimes I didn't connect with a few of the girls,
Hmm.
and either we just didn't get along, which was very rare. I wasn't like a very talkative person growing up. I was pretty shy, but I didn't really vibe with like one or two people.
Yeah.
And I remember the thing that my my best friend told me was, all you have to do is find one thing that you are obsessed with that person for. So, and then just focus on that. Like when they talk, do you think they have like a really cool way of speaking, or do you love their smile? Like just like focus on one thing about somebody that you may not vibe with initially, and then you kind of like almost train your brain to be interested in them. I don't know. That's a whole nother topic kind of, but yeah, I think the curiosity thing is kind of like ingrained in me, so.
I think it is key. Like even as you described, let's say some of your journey, what you're going on to build, which is amazing by the way. I never thought I would see the intersection of AI and construction, but now that you talk about it, it's like, why did no one else think about that? You know what I mean? So I think that's really really good about you guys. But I think again, it started from a place of curiosity. You were connecting with somebody else at the coffee shop, and you already connected with people from your job, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
They're blowing up, and then you're curious about, okay, I wonder if, and that's, you kind of took it and ran with that. So when it comes to being an innovator, being in that creative space, what would you like the next 3 years to look like for you in a dream world?
I think I know what I would like it to look like, and that would be being a household name in the construction tech AI intersection, and being able to provide a lot of value to small, medium-sized businesses who are often neglected in tech. I think that it's a section of the market that's like very underserved in tech, because venture capital wants the super large enterprise deals. They want like you to be going viral for enterprise deals. But the people who are like struggling constantly and need the help are the ones that are small family owned businesses, and providing value to them is like a huge thing, the way we look at our product. So yeah, I think that's like where I see the next 3 years. And obviously, in 3 years plus getting acquired, maybe that'd
Yeah,
be sick.
yeah, yeah.
If I'm being
I
honest.
think like it's every founder's dream either to get to a point where they're able to exit,
Yeah,
or get to a point where they don't need to exit, and then you kind
cash
of just,
flow. Mm-hmm.
yeah, exactly, exactly.
Yeah.
What is your plan to continue to integrate sports into that journey that you're going to go on over the next 3 years?
Um, like literally, if we're talking, I want our company to have um
This
a
is good.
pickleball team, kickball team. I genuinely want that. And we've already talked about it once we have a few more people in the company.
Okay,
Um,
that's
but
nice.
yeah, I think like sports kind of just like is the best way to get closer to people and have fun. But as far as like integrating sports, I think the the mindset of being a team and not like a hierarchy. There's no hierarchy on teams really. Like you have your captain who's like leading,
Hmm.
but there's no like hierarchy. And I think the way that we're looking at even structuring our organization, we want it to be flat. We want everyone to be a part of the decision making and camaraderie. Um, so yeah, that's the big thing I think.
So, last question here, and again, thank you so much for being on the
Oh my
show.
gosh,
I'm
of
loving this
course.
conversation.
Me
I
too.
can do this for hours.
Me too.
So you're gonna have to shut me up if I start talking. You're gonna have
No,
to shut
all
me up if I
good.
start talking too much. Let's say I'm at a company, right? And I'm stagnant in the sense that I'm working the 9 to 5. I know this is not all that I'm meant to do, but I'm kind of stuck, right? What advice would you give that person? They're a former student athlete, by the way.
Um, I think the biggest thing is start researching startups and researching what companies are popping up and doing. You'll gain confidence if you see like people starting something that may have a similar background to you. Connect with alumni, and understand their journey, because the chances are they also took a huge leap, and they may not have like expertise, or they might not be an engineer. Like those things are very those things are the after the fact. After you choose to make a company or start something, you can find your co-founder, your technical team, but it's really just gaining the confidence and knowing like what this guy did it, like why can't I? Or
Hmm.
somebody else in this from the team that I played for in college did it. I know I can do it. Like it's seeing people that you can just like you were there or they were in your shoes at one point is a huge thing for
So
me.
when let's say you're having one of those epiphany moments and you have that idea, right? But it's your idea. You didn't have the pleasure of like an Elena, right? Being
Hmm.
right there in the same coffee shop with you.
Hmm.
What would you do then?
Um, there's like actual resources for this, but I would start talking to your friends from college who are doing something maybe similar in startups, but just talk to your friends and see who would be interested in like joining on because if you're I wouldn't say like necessarily just go to your teammates, but if you're thinking of starting something, it's a lot easier to start it with somebody you have some kind of network or connection to, because you don't have to like start from ground zero figuring out who they are or can you
Hmm.
trust them. So I think that's like that could be a good way to just find someone who is either your cheerleader or wants to join because I listened to this podcast and it's kind of like around the idea of offering somebody to be your co-founder, and it was saying don't take it as like you're begging them to join the company. Take it as like they're they're begging you or they're so excited to give you to get a piece of this journey or this freedom with you, like to build
Mm,
something cool. They're not joining because they think it's a $1 billion company right now. They're joining
yeah.
because they want to do the journey. Like that's kind of how I think of it when we hire on early people.
What's the best part about being your own boss and an entrepreneur? As a
Um,
former student athlete, of course.
yes.
Tie it back into the theme. Come on.
Yeah. I think it's getting to like work towards something again because I haven't had this since I was like working towards the Olympics or working towards a certain championship. I haven't had that like, oh my gosh, I have never wanted something this much
Mm,
since being being out of sports. So I think finding uh, that again has been like the best part for sure.
I love that. I love that.
Hmm.
And I could definitely relate to that 100%.
Yeah.
So a tradition I've been doing with every single guest on the show is I'm gonna tell you their hot take and I want your advice, and then you're gonna give me your own sports hot take. Does that sound good?
Yeah.
Okay, so our last guest, she said that every athlete should practice ballet.
Oh.
Yeah, I had the same exact reaction.
Wow. I did ballet for a year when I was 5, so maybe that I don't have a good like maybe I'm not the right person to ask. I could see that because in hockey they say that every good skater came from figure skating or should do figure skating. And
That's crazy.
Sidney Crosby figure skated like a lot of the top like ice hockey players like did figure skating for a summer or did a bit of it. So I kind of like I don't know. I'm
So
sure
you
that
are the right person to ask for this. What do you mean?
I actually might have to agree with her, but I don't have a single ounce of dance in me as far as like elegant.
Yeah, yeah. It's actually funny that you mentioned that because I played hockey up until I was 12 years old, and I learned to
Oh,
skate in
sweet.
Miami, which is really weird when they're like, "You learned to
Wow.
skate where?" I was like, "Yeah,
That's so cool.
Kendall Ice Arena," and I started off figure skating, and
Oh,
then one of the hockey coaches like, "Man, you have really good foundations." And
Yeah.
once I learned how to hockey stop, it was game over. And I
Yeah.
was like, goodbye with the little pick toe and all
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
But that's a cool that's a cool correlation. So
Mm-hmm.
now, what's your hot take on anything sports related for the next guest that I'm going to interview?
Um, okay, if we're going along with the theme of like what every athlete should do or every, um, you
It
know,
doesn't have to be, but sure, if you want to.
okay. My hot take, ooh, I don't want to start controversies.
No, you need to. You need to.
Oh, no, I can't go with that. I would say the one thing that I wish I did, but I believe is true, is every athlete should be so driven at two sports. I
Two
know.
sports.
At, until you reach that like I don't know, you're a freshman in high school, like having that outlet to just breathe in the summer might have been a good thing for me because I think it's a little bit of a burnout when you get to college.
Mm.
And I see so many people burning out with their individual or their main sport.
Mm-hmm.
So my hot take is, yeah, every person should do another sport seriously or at least try to. And maybe it's like it's tennis and you're a basketball player. Like I don't know how that would like correlate, but
Yeah, I do not know.
yeah. But I think even if it's like going and being like super serious about golf, like hockey players love golf.
You guys do.
We
You
love
love.
golf. Like, why? I don't know. It doesn't make sense. So yeah, I think that's my hot take is everyone just needs to do two sports growing up. Even if your
Okay.
parents are like, no, you're gonna do this.
You're like, no, parents. I
Yes.
listened to Carly and she told me some knowledge and
Yeah, yeah,
I
yeah.
have to. This is a must do
I
right
get
now.
to go snowboarding even if I break my arm.
Yeah, it could be something like that.
Yeah, yeah,
Well,
yeah.
Carly, I love our conversation so much.
Me too.
Thank you so much for hopping on the show.
Of
I
course.
really, I'm excited for when you guys launch.
Thank you.
I'll stay tuned. I'll stay updated. When you're big time,
Oh
remember us.
yeah.
You
That's
know, you
that's
know.
you. We're so thank you so much for having me. It's been so fun.
Of course. No, I really enjoyed it. I think your story is brilliant, and so many people are gonna hear it, and I'm super excited for that.
Thank you.
Well,
Thank
thank
you
you
so
so
much.
much, man. And I was gonna say, if there's other founders, owners that you
Mhm.
think this would be a great platform, that were also former student athletes, because there's a ton out. The
Yeah.
reason I started this show is because this community does not exist.
Yeah.
It doesn't exist. When you Google, I remember I just graduated and I Googled student athlete business success stories. All I got were LeBron James and Michael Jordan.
And they're
I was like,
hmm
there's not a community that exists, but you guys are out there. You're starting your own construction, almost like AI automation company. That's brilliant. So if there's any other person within your network that you think would be a great fit for this show that is starting something or is already at the top of their career, can just give wisdom to people who are starting their own ventures or just graduating or thinking about playing a sport in college, because that's the audience that we're really tailoring these episodes to inspire the next generation. Let me know, and they
of
will
course.
have the pleasure of getting to meet me
Yes.
and chat enough. Okay.
I definitely will. I have some people already in mind, so I'm super excited for you to connect with them.
Of course, send it my way. Thank you so
Cool.
much, Carly. You have
Thank
an
you.
amazing rest of the day.
You
All
too.
right,
Bye.
and keep killing it.
Oh, I
Keep
will.
killing it.
I'll keep going. All right.
Keep going. All right, take care.
Bye.
There you have it. That was episode number 25 of Live with 25. Quarter of a. Oh my goodness. Anyway, you guys heard her story. It was amazing. Let me know what you guys think. Did you like her episode? Did you not like her episode? I only know until you guys tell me. Respectfully. That's the only way I know. If there's anything you want me to add, change, remove, keep doing. Do you guys like this series where I'm asking them a hot take? I'm thinking about maybe starting the next episode with that. I'm not sure. Let me know. Again, I'm building this community for the leaders and futures of tomorrow by people who are actually going through the journey. Again, this is a community I wish that I had for myself. post-graduating, where I could tap into this resource, hear the stories, hear her struggles like you just heard, hear her success stories, and hear the driving factor of her past athletic background is gonna lead her to chase this dream. That's exactly what we're trying to build here. It takes all of us. So please, let me know what you think. Let me know if you like this episode, if you were inspired for this episode. Let me know the direct practices that you're gonna start implementing right now from hearing Karly's story. Again, it's super, super important, guys, that we build a community together. We're here to create, we're here to inspire, and we're here to build, right? That's what we're doing here on Live with Ty, and it takes all of you guys. If you guys have made it to this far of the video, I cannot thank you guys enough for being part of this journey. Every single one of you guys counts. I think all 5 of you guys, right? But again, every single one of you guys counts. I value your time and your feedback. Like, I'm borderline, I might say I love you guys. Genuinely, I might say I love you guys for engaging with this content. What I ask for this episode is that you guys share this episode with somebody who you think needs to hear it. Somebody that wants to build, to create, somebody that might be feeling a little bit stagnant, somebody that might be struggling in their sport and is not necessarily, can't see the payoff, somebody who just graduated, somebody who's stuck in a job and wants to create something but doesn't know how to form a team, or how to come up with an idea that you can form a business around, or you want to step into that leadership position at your company, you don't know how. What we're doing and what she just told you is how to leverage your athletic experience into building your dream life. That's what we're here doing on Live with Ty. Once again, I'm your host, Tyler Johnson. This was episode 25, and this was Live with Ty. Peace.